I feel like it's been a minute since we've had a story about backstage drama in AEW. I guess we were due for one. Although this is tame by comparison to some of the ones in the past. It was reported this week by Fightful that MVP has rubbed a lot of people the wrong way behind the scenes in AEW, as expressed by a number of talents on the roster. MVP has supposedly made it well known that he does not like Speedball Mike Bailey. I don't know why he doesn't like Speedball. That in and of itself is a nothing burger, because who gives a shit if MVP likes Speedball or not? Not everyone on the roster has to like each other. I'll bet you work with at least one person that you don't like, right? Doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to work together. But it goes beyond that. He apparently did not want Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin to lose their tag team titles to Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. Now, it's not known if Jet Speed was originally going to beat the Hurt Syndicate to win the tag team titles, but they never did. The report also states that MVP turned down pitches for the Hurt Syndicate to drop the belts to FTR at All In, and if not at All In, then to do so at Forbidden Door. MVP reportedly suggested they lose the titles instead to either the Gates of Agony, the Outrunners, or Private Party. 3 teams that they have already beaten this year. And the same Private Party that they destroyed and took the titles from. Private Party has not been seen on AEW television since. In fact, the only match that Private Party has had since losing to the Hurt Syndicate all year, okay, it is August now. The only other match they've had all year was in House of Glory. That was back in March. That ship has sailed. So long as the Hurt Syndicate have those tag team titles, Private Party won't. And I mean, they made sure of that with the way that their run was treated after they beat the Young Bucks for those belts. They beat the brakes off those boys. They buried them, Tony Khan and the Hurt Syndicate both, buried those 2 men 6 feet under to where they're still trying to dig their way out for oxygen. Now, there's also said to be frustration within the AEW locker room that the Hurt Syndicate beats everybody up. They high-five the fans, and they do cool moves when they're supposed to be heels. And it was also noted the storyline with MJF was originally planned to run even longer, but there was a certain member of the group, not MVP, that wanted it over and done with, and so MJF is out of the Hurt Syndicate. Although there's not said to be any heat between MJF and the group, only that this person just wanted him out. If there are any issues between MVP and Speedball, they did their best to poke fun at it and diffuse the situation by posting it was very short videos, like 20 seconds, on social media backstage at Dynamite, where Speedball was filming for his vlog. When the Hurt Syndicate walked up to him, MVP said, "Fuck you, Speedball." And then Bailey said, with a smile on his face, "Well, fuck you too, MVP." I like to think this is how all these guys greet each other backstage in AEW. They keep their distance. This was all tongue-in-cheek. It should be noted that so far no one has denied any of these rumors, right? They're poking fun at it, but no one has actually said that this is bullshit. It just felt like, hey, it's out there, so let's try to make fun of it and just move on. Now again, the Bailey stuff is pretty trivial. I don't see that as any kind of a big deal, but when it starts to bleed over into the product, that's when it becomes a problem. And I was wondering, I talked about this on the show at the time. I was wondering why the build to that tag team title match in Texas was so wonky. Where they ended up adding the Patriarchy to make it a triple threat. It was the Patriarchy, Jet Speed, and the Hurt Syndicate. And I said, well, why wouldn't you just add FTR and make it a 4-way? I mean, that would have made more sense to me. That way the Hurt Syndicate could have lost the titles at All In without having to take the losing fall. Like, FTR could win the belt, but they're not directly beating Lashley and Benjamin to do it. Instead, FTR worked a match on the pre-show and then did commentary for the title match, which was very weird. I don't know if MVP has creative control of any kind as part of his deal, either written or otherwise. I'm going to assume he does not. Why is he making decisions about who Lashley and Benjamin will or won't drop the titles to? Like, why is that his call to make? It's not his call to make. It's Tony Khan's call. It's his company. He does the creative for the shows. And if he wants the titles on FTR, then the titles should go to FTR. And if they don't, then it should be because Tony Khan says so, not MVP. It's like the inmates running the asylum. FTR is wrestling Brody King and Bandito in the finals of the Tag Team Eliminator Tournament, which means the winner challenges the Hurt Syndicate in London at Forbidden Door. It should be FTR in that spot, and they should win the tag team titles. That way they can put the titles on the line at All Out against Adam Copeland and Christian Cage. I think that's the play, to do Cope and Christian, the reunion, and then put the belts on them in Toronto. This idea that AEW has to come up with a workaround or a plan B of some kind is ridiculous. It's not like they're being asked to drop the belts to fucking Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. FTR is one of the best tag teams in the entire company. They have plenty of credibility. But even if they didn't, even if Tony Khan wanted them to drop the titles to Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, my point still stands. It's not MVP's call to make, or it shouldn't be. Or Bobby Lashley, or Shelton Benjamin, for that matter. I mean, giving talent creative input is one thing. Giving them creative control is another. Nobody should have control over things like this other than the promoter, unless it is specifically written into someone's contract. Then it's fair game, if you're dumb enough to give it to them. If FTR is what Tony wants, then FTR is it. That's it. Period. End of story. Now, Forbidden Door is coming up in a few weeks. Actually, a couple of weekends from now. Forbidden Door still is not looking much like a Forbidden Door, but that doesn't seem to bother the UK fans. AEW has almost 15,000 tickets out for the show at the O2 in London for a $2.5 million gate so far, the fourth largest in company history. Now, the G1 Climax ends the week before the pay-per-view. So whatever New Japan involvement there may be, it looks like those appearances, if they're going to show up on TV and they're going to make some of those matches, it may be limited to that last week. We know Hiroshi Tanahashi has said he will wrestle his last ever UK match on that show. We just don't know against who. My theory was maybe they're holding out hope Will Ospreay can work the show and they could do Tanahashi against Ospreay. They also announced on Collision last night that next week there's going to be a four-way match to determine who challenges Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door for the IWGP title. It'll be Nigel McGuinness, Hechicero, Daniel Garcia, and Lee Moriarty. So basically, Nigel McGuinness is wrestling Zack Sabre Jr. at Forbidden Door. Can't go any other way. Now, not announced yet, but it looks like Hangman Adam Page is going to be defending the AEW World title, most likely, against MJF. That appears to be the direction for that show. MJF got a win that was not without controversy over Mark Briscoe on Wednesday. And they have announced that MJF and Hangman will be having a face-to-face this week on Dynamite. Darby Allin, he kidnapped Wheeler Yuta on Dynamite and then tried to run him over with his truck after sticking a sign to Yuta's forehead that Jon Moxley found that read, just Forbidden Door. That was the message on the note. So Moxley against Darby is all but confirmed. As an aside, Darby Allin told Steve-O on his podcast that coming off his Mount Everest climb, I'm literally stopping and smelling the roses right now. I just want to be focused on being as grounded as possible. I do want to go to space. Of course he does. I love how he talks about being grounded and then proceeds to talk about going to space, where he will be anything but grounded. He'll be the exact opposite of grounded. But I guess if Jason Voorhees can go to space, then why not Darby Allin? Tony Khan's ready to fund the expedition, just so Darby can plant the AEW flag on the moon.